Hi everybody, it's Annette from The Art of Intuition, and today we're going to talk about why realities don't turn out the way we thought they were going to turn out. What happens in us conceiving it, us trying to bring the reality in to where it doesn't quite feel like we thought it would feel. We don't get the ending we thought we were going to get. We don't get the satisfaction at the end of it. It falls short. It's not what we thought it would be. So I want to delve into that. It is a great trope. Another saying, and every saying that we have always has a higher consciousness message in it. You know, every tropey saying we have. Nothing is ever like you think it's going to be. And it was said very well in the movie Grease, I thought, when this girl was trying to go to beauty school, and she said, it's not what I thought it would be. And the older lady in the scene said, yeah, well, nothing ever is. So what happens? Why isn't it what we thought it would be? What happens in the middle of us creating this reality where it's not what we thought? And this is kind of a little multi-layered because there's going to be a zillion reasons why it doesn't turn out the way you thought it would. And it's going to be a lot of reasons why it could have started that way, but it got skewed. One of the big ones is we try to rush a reality. And that is one thing our human's going to do. Our human is always going to want to rush to it. It's going to want to get to something it sees. I talk a lot on this channel about connecting with the reality first in the dream state. Well, I used to. I used to talk a lot about that. I don't do it as much anymore because my dream state's changed a lot over the years. My utilization of it has changed quite a bit. But in the beginning of my ascension journey, I saw a lot of different realities in my dream state. Eventually it flips and you see them in your waking state too, so you don't have just that preview kind of in your sleep state. That doesn't mean exactly everything you see will take place. Some things energetically will come through, but it won't be exactly the same way. But I would see a reality get teed up, and that's what I had a friend that would call it that. See it in the when you see it on the dream state, you teed it up. You're not that far from it. Your frequency, you could hit the frequency in your sleep state, which means it wasn't that far off from your waking state. And if you got the body vibration up high enough, that reality would materialize around you. That's how they come in. Our body vibration has to materialize kind of in that reality. We have to meld into it. We have to go into it. We can't create it from the reality of our vibration of our current body. You know, we can't create it. If we could, if our vibration of our body was that frequency, then that reality would already be here. We would have nothing to tee up. It would already be here. If it's not here, there's a disconnect. You know, you don't have the right frequency of the body yet, and that's what we have to raise. So what we'll do is we will try to rush into it. You know, and it takes a lot of restraint to not do that. You know, this is something that when we first start out teeing up these realities, we see a lot of amazing things we can see ourselves doing. We might see people we want to partner with, all these opportunities we could have, and we want to jump right to that. You know, we don't want to do any of the clearings. We don't want to do any of the stuff that's going to actually get our vibration to the vibration of the reality we have seen. So what we do is we go in quicker. You know, if we're supposed to meet this person. A lot of times we'll see people way before we meet them in our dream state. So what we might do in that case is if it's someone we have seen before, even though we haven't maybe ever had a conversation with them, which that really technically doesn't matter. Energetically, if you're in the room with a person, you don't really even have to be in the room with a person, but our human, even if we see them in a room together, if we don't talk to people, we think, oh, you know, nothing happened, it was a big waste of time. Energetically, a lot of stuff is going on between the two energy fields. And especially if it's someone you have a feeling you're going to talk to at some point, you're going to have a reality with, you're kind of almost seeing what has to shift, what vibrations have to, what things have to be cleansed, what programs have to be, God, I can't even think of the word, but that tells you what happens after I've been on a break. What programs have to be worked through, would have to be released. That's the word. That's where I'm going. What has to be released for us to get to the space, right? To get to that new frequency. What is in their world that can't stay anymore? What's in your world that can't stay anymore? So even though you might not ever talk to them, your energy fields are trying to tee it up and saying, okay, that's got to go over here. You need to clean up this over here. You need to clean up this over here. And we'll meet up again. I'll see you again in 6 months. And we'll be in the same room together then too, and see if maybe now we can form a reality. I know I watched this go on with me and a person for about 2.5 years before we actually had a conversation. And we had some very small conversations after a couple of years. We went through this for a couple of years and there was no conversation. Then we'd have a very small conversations, maybe one here, one 6 months later. It was probably a whole nother couple of years after that before we actually were in a reality together. It took that long for it to come in. Because we each had stuff we had to work through. But our human does not like that. Our human wants to try to rush it. Our human wants to go, let me just go talk to that person right now. Let me go rush into this. I know if it's someone you've seen, I know where this person hangs out. I know where this person goes. I'll just go and introduce myself or whatever to get to it, you know. And when we do that, we're starting the reality from not the energy we saw in our dream state. We're trying to start the reality from our current vibration, which is not where the reality we saw exists. It's not the frequency. So what you get is you get a spin-off. You get a parallel reality, we call it that. You're going to get a very small microcosm of what the reality could have been. Because the frequencies aren't right. You know, so we had seen this thing and built this thing up of all the amazing things this reality could be. And then we get there and it's not that, because we're not in the frequency where that reality exists. We were doing some kind of knockoff B-movie reality of the one we wanted. We weren't where we wanted to be. We weren't where, it wasn't where it could exist in the frequency we saw. So that's one big reason why it doesn't feel like we thought it would feel. Another reason this can happen is we want to put a lot of human stuff into reality we see. I am a big proponent of doing this one. I did it with one I just was discussing. We try to ground it into human things. You know, we're going to be married. We're going to be business partners. We're going to be lovers. It doesn't matter how we're trying to ground it in. And I'm going to use the word ground to kind of ground it out of the higher frequencies back into some kind of human reality. Some kind of Disney movie, something that we want to get out of it. Even if it's not a person, it's a job, and we want to change how they do everything here. We want to, we want to become president. We want to become CEO. We want to become whatever. But that's not why the reality is coming in. And when you're in your dream state, what you see is the purest form, in a sense, of that reality. What it's really supposed to be. Even if at the time you might not be able to, because you're not in the frequency of the reality yet, you might not understand it 100% of what you're seeing. It's like seeing pictures of someone else's family vacation and they're all out of order and you don't really know what you're seeing. But the through line will normally be the same. And on the reality that this happened very clearly for me, I probably had 70, 80 dreams years before this reality came in. And they were all kind of the same. We didn't have a human type relationship. It wasn't based on a typical human relationship. It wasn't based on that. In the dream world, what I saw, the reality I saw, was more of a supportive one, but one to support one through programming, one to support the other one through programming. It was not the Disney movie thing, yet I tried to make it that. And when I started to get into the reality, I wanted to make it that. I wanted to make it something I could understand. Because just for it to be a clearing wasn't enough for me at that point. That's not what I wanted out of the reality. I wanted something else. So we kind of set these human expectations on these realities we've seen, and now we're also now taking it back to a different frequency. We're shifting the frequency, and we're going into it with all these things we want. We're not going into it with a purity. Our higher aspects they know why we're here. They know what we think is going to happen. None of that's just actually going to happen. You're here for program clearing. They're here for program clearing. As soon as that is done, this reality is gone. It will dissolve. Doesn't mean you might not be able to have a different reality in another space and time with this person, but right now, that's not what this is getting teed up for. This is something that we are in a totally different mindset about for a long time because we want it to be something we understand. So we get there and we're like, oh, this isn't, I'm trying to tweak it and make it something else. And it's not working because it's not supposed to work that way. That's not why this was put together. We still have a lot, and that's why we're there. We still have a lot of that human stuff to clear. We're still living from our human story about the whole thing. You know, we're still living, especially once you've waited years for something to come in, you know. And I know when I get to this reality after waiting years, I'm going to say waiting, but I was doing a lot of work, you know, to get there, to get to this reality and all the opportunities that could come from this reality. And it's not saying that no matter how pure you might start it from, you get to the reality, and even if you're coming from your purest place, the other people in the reality might not be able to hit that yet. And you won't be able to really get to the opportunities that could exist, the co-creation that could exist there, because everyone's kind of shit is in the way, and it's just not going to get there. And then we have to kind of be able to see that when that happens and not get super attached to any of the realities we see, because they do change very quickly. They change on a dime in a sense, you know, the vibration changes, the reality shifts. So we have to be detached from that. Are humans always going to humans live from trauma. You know, that's what humans live from. That's how we used to live. We live from trauma. We live from story. We live from whatever victim energy. That is the human mentality. That's what human is, you know. That's what it means. It's living from trauma. It's living from all of this kind of story. And we get past that, and we have to be able to get past that. That's what ascension is, to get past we don't live from the emotions anymore. We might feel emotions come up, but we're not creating something from an emotion. We're not creating something from a need. We're not creating something from a lack. We're just experiencing the reality and going into it from our highest aspect. We can achieve in that moment. We can achieve a high one maybe 3 months later, and we get a totally different reality. We can shift a reality, but we have to shift inside first. We have to look at what's going on with this, what's going on with me in this reality. Why is this not working? What am I trying to force? What is not flowing here? And we have to really be able to look at that and see, why is that? Why do I want to keep pushing it? What is my agenda here? That's another big one as to why these things don't turn out. We have an agenda. We don't want to admit we have an agenda. We're going to sit there and say, we don't have an agenda. No, I don't have an agenda. I'm coming at it from my purest place. But if we really look at it, we have a hell of an agenda that we want to get accomplished in these realities. So we have to almost look at it from our higher aspects are always going to look at it in a detached manner. You know, it'll feel an emotion, it'll recognize an emotion, it just wants to clear the emotion, but it doesn't have a story around the emotion. I saw the movie Poor Things, and part of that movie, I thought it was interesting the way the main character acted, because she would say, oh, I'm getting angry. But she wouldn't have a story victim energy about it. She'd say, I'm angry. You know, so it was kind of an interesting view of, in a sense, how I looked at it, how your consciousness does start to work, how your higher aspects work in a sense, because she didn't have a story around the emotion. It was just the emotion. So we get this detachment, and she had this detachment kind of to everything, and it was just the emotion. She could feel it, she could clear it, but she didn't really need to understand it or even really care. And we kind of can get to that too, where we can feel anger come up. We can get angry. We can have it just trapped in our body and come up for no reason. But we don't need to know the rest of it. It really doesn't matter. You know, it really doesn't matter why we feel that. We don't have this attachment to the story, attachment to the emotion. Our humans get so attached to the emotion that we can't go forward from that. You know, we don't want to leave that behind, which keeps us really bottlenecked into these other realities, because we don't want to let them go. You know, we don't want to release all these other experiences, because in a sense we feel like that's what's made us special. That's what has made us something. There's all these other realities. That's what's been important for us to do. You know, all these other things, and they're not. They're not that important in a sense. They're not meant to be that important. We give them that importance. We give them that weight, and we give them that weight. We give them the power to then depict all our other reality, because we keep bringing it up. We don't listen to our inner guidance. We just want to get to what we want to get to. We also have a lot of these realities, we're also still trying to fill something of the hole inside of us with all this other external stuff. And that's, once again, you're trying to ground it back into this human stuff when we're just trying to anchor in a higher reality, bringing the higher energy, bringing our higher aspects down where we can live from those aspects and live those realities, not take them, strip them down, make them a human reality, and let's go live that one. That's not what made you feel so excited and free and joyful when you dreamed it. It wasn't because it was grounded in any human stuff. It was because you were able to hit the frequency of those emotions and hold those emotions. The higher emotions, not the lower emotions, not the trauma emotions, the higher frequencies of joy and freedom. That's what gave you that feeling in the dream. But those are not going to be filled by a human person or human reasons to come together. You're not there for the human reasons. I'll promise you that. You can list 100 human reasons you're in a reality. None of those are true. None of those are true. That's just what got you there. That was just the cab you took to get to the party. It is not why you're there. You're going to get to the party and you're like, well, this is not what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be all moonlight and roses, and this is not that. This is a lot of clearing. I'm trudging through this reality to clear a lot of my stuff. We set up realities to clear until we can clear without having to set up these realities to do that. So don't rush them. And even if you don't rush them and you wait for them to come in and you do what you feel the guidance to do, when you get them there and they finally start to anchor in, and that they anchor in over time, they can anchor in over months and years, piece by piece by piece by piece. Don't say it's here if all the pieces aren't here yet. And even if all the pieces are here yet, we don't count our chickens before they hatch because they have to solidify in. We have to be respectful of others in the reality. We have to be honest about, this is a possible reality. It could be an awesome reality, but if we can't get there because of where everyone's coming from, there's no point of trying to force that. We can't force anyone to do that if it's not that. It might just be, is there a purpose for us to come together? It might not be the purpose I saw. Maybe we can't get there. Someone else will come in later to maybe feel that purpose. But what is the purpose of this? And once we can really hone in on the purposes, it's going to be a lot of them, but they're not human purposes. That's just what got us there. That's what the carrot that was dangled to get us there, what our mind went to, because when we're still operating from our human aspect and we start seeing a lot of these realities, we start to understand that, we're trying to make sense of it. We're trying to make it make sense. And a lot of times in the beginning, we start seeing them and trying to bring them in. We're not there for the reasons we thought we were there for. We're creating for totally different reasons. But if you hone in on the dreams, you'll see the theme. What I dreamed was correct. It did pan out that way. I just put a lot of extra stuff in it. It's also that old trope where people will say, you'll hear what you need to hear. Don't take what someone's telling you and add more shit to the story to make it sound better, to make it sound like they were the hero in the story for them. They're telling you, they're being honest. They're telling you something, but we put all this other stuff in to make it sound like how we want it to sound. They were in a bad relationship. Oh, this person left the job because of this. They didn't, whatever our story is going to be, we'll not only create our own stories, we'll listen to someone else speak and we'll create a story for them about what was going on, Human consciousness is amazing at spinning a story. Spinning a story, turning it upside down, taking something that's very simple and making it the most convoluted piece of shit you've ever seen. We've all done it. We've all done it when we're in our human consciousness. We will just tear it apart and piece it back together with tape and just keep trying to move it around to make it be something else. Look at what it is and be honest about what it is and look for the real soul-aligned reasons you're there. Opposite of the human reasons, and list those out. It'll make the reality make more sense. And you can actually then enjoy the reality because you understand what the purpose of it is and not trying to makeshift it into something else that's not aligned to be here yet. If it's not here, it's not aligned. Now we have to look at why isn't it aligned? Why isn't it here? Why isn't it aligned? What can I do to align myself to this reality? We can't be concerned about aligning everyone else to the reality. We have to worry about aligning ourselves to the reality. And worry is not really the word I want to use there, but that's our main focus is ourselves. If we're focusing now on everyone else, we're losing our focus. Our focus is now divided up. We're separating off to worry about what everybody else is doing when they're technically not our concern. They're going to show up if their higher selves deem they're supposed to be there, and they're going to be there. They can't miss their mark, just like we can't miss our mark. So, all right, I think that's a lot to chew on. So keep practicing the art of intuition.